You're live. All right, cool. Greetings, Earthlings. Hope you're doing well. It's kind of late. Geez, a little after 10 p.m. and just starting my new show here that I'm going to be doing probably every. Well, I get a little lost. Probably like every day or so. Um, it's called contacting extraterrestrial beings, and I really haven't, announced it that much, but it's going to be a talk show that I'm doing on here. So, oh, I forgot I had these plugged in. Oh, hopefully you could hear me. That's okay. There we go. All right, cool. Now you probably can hear me. Um, make sure I got the audio going. Yeah, that's all good. Well, welcome. You're listening to Contacting Extraterrestrial Beings, and it's going to be my live show that I'm going to be doing every uh probably every day or so. I like to do it like once a week. It's just a talk show, and it's kind of about different phenomenon, UFOs, extraterrestrials, that sort of thing. And I I have a lot to talk about. Uh, to start off, um, the name contacting extraterrestrial beings, the idea, the concept actually came from uh if you ever heard of Mixmaster Mike, who did work with the Beastie Boys. And he swears that one time he was mixing with records and scratching and doing all that kind of cosmic stuff that he does, and believed that he had some kind of contact with uh, some sort of being that came down on a craft in an area that they were playing in. And when I heard that, at the time I was just starting on the radio, and I wanted to have a cool name for my show, but I like the idea of like um, how the music, the radio waves would kind of go on FM and not AM, but which would travel farther here, but they would go on like FM radio, and maybe an alien would hear my broadcasting. So, um, yeah, and so that's kind of how I got the name contacting extraterrestrial beings, and then for like several years, I did my radio show, and well, we're not going to get into the specifics of how that came to a close and everything, but that's a whole story in itself. Um, but what happened recently, which is very strange, and I don't know if you've seen, if anyone's seen the movie um, or the show The Servant. Um, the whole time I was watching that, I felt like I was kind of on the cusp of being, is this a phenomenon that's happening, um, supernatural, or is this, um, there's an explanation for this. We can explain this. Um, and through the whole show, I forget how many series there were. I felt like, and even to like the last episode, I felt like I was kind of on the cusp of, is this what's supernatural, or you know can we explain it? And Um, the reason why I bring that up is because lately there has been some, and throughout my life, there has been things that have happened to me, and to people around me as well. And just a little side note here, I'm not going to make this the longest show tonight due to my illness, which is part of what I'm going to be talking about. um, this right here, you don't know if you could see this or not, but I'll read it to you. Uh, it's from my notes, okay? And it says, "Be past all this drama and the fact that if this is true, that he made some crazy claims on a podcast, and you know that's it." So what happened is that every time I was doing preparation for this particular podcast, and I had made some announcements. I didn't check the volume. I hope the volume's good, but I don't think there's that many people listening. But if there is anybody listening and you are in the live chat, it would be cool to just be like, "Yeah, you sound good. I can hear you." But I'm probably going to check the audio in a second. Um, so I found, I was preparing for this show, and I had just weird things happen to me, and it's like you can probably explain these things, right? But is it coincidental when they keep happening over and over and over again? Um, all right, I heard the audio crackle a little bit there. I think maybe I might just take a little break here, being this is my first show. I'm going to try to do it every single night to maybe get a following. I have a just a ton of material. If you want to just tune in or just listen to the audio of my stuff, I'm going to have really interesting things that I have picked up on that uh, deal with a lot of supernatural stuff that is happening, um, you know, here and everywhere around the globe. Um, all right, let's see here. So I'm going to go into what's it, my YouTube, or no, I'll go into the Facebook and go to the link from there. And all right, I'm seeing myself talk. All right, I'm seeing myself. Oh, perfect. The audio sounds great. All right, cool. Awesome. Other than my crackly voice, sounds perfect, nice and compressed. Great. Doing good. Um and these strange things that, and you can go back further, and that's the thing, is there is these moments in my life that I could swear these things were supernatural. And it's just there sometimes is that little bit of doubt. Um and we have so many things that are coming around us that uh it, it's hard to grasp, like, if it again is really true, or if it's you can explain these things, if it's human or is it not human, right? um but what happened to me, and I'll just say this recently, and there's just a few things. One is that weird thing. I read it to you. What I was writing about was some dramatic things, and this was taken from notes about. Well, it's right here. Um, and I don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, I don't know if this is a good way to just kind of start it. But we'll get into like the actual meat of that later. Um, but I was taking notes, and somebody was making outrageous kind of claims uh, about somebody, and the other person basically opposed those claims, and then he comes back and kind of clarifies himself, but then he makes even more outlandish claims. So it's it's a dramatic thing, but it's kind of like, again, is it true or is it not? And I don't know. So what had happened is that printed out. I was trying to get my printer operating. I don't ever have a problem with my printer, and just kind of how I always did notes when I worked as an engineer. Um, I and they always printed out stuff, and it just kind of, maybe it's a little old school, but I like to read from it. And it's got how I think I get stuff and gather it and write it, and that's just kind of how it work. But my printer stopped working, and then I'm just sitting upstairs writing at my computer, and all of a sudden the printer prints, and like I'm running downstairs, and then that's again what I see. Be past all this drama and the fact that, if this is true, that it's a. And then from another statement, he made some crazy claims on a podcast. We don't need to list the podcast right now, but yeah, pretty interesting. Um, so then that happens. And then yesterday I get extremely ill, like just violently sick, out of nowhere. And again, there's things I could maybe account for it, and maybe things I couldn't account for it. And then today, our water just goes off. And according to our landlord, he's baffled. Doesn't make any sense at all. Um, and it's just, these things happened. And I announced that I was going to do this show. And I know it seems far fetched, but what if there was some kind of force or something, um, that was trying to keep me from having a voice? um, yeah. So it's interesting. Um, and I don't think that 100%, but I think it's possible, and it kind of scares me. Um, so I mean, and like I said, there were things that happened to me, um, when I was much younger. And there is so much of this that I'd like to talk about, that I'm not going to be able to get to talk about it all. Hence, I'm sipping tea right now, with my voice and everything. But but I'm plugging away. That's why I ended up having a little bit of a delay of doing this. Um, see if I could pinpoint. Yeah, well, when I was like really, really, really young, and this was the first thing that had happened to me, um, I must have been perhaps like 7, 8, really young. And I remember being outside, and it was kind of a dark, cool night. And I was talking with my dad and my neighbor about uh, the stars or something like that. And I actually think we may have seen a shooting star, or we were talking about shooting stars. And I went to bed that night, and I had all this space and shooting stars and all that kind of stuff in my head. And I remember that I had this like giant kind of cabinet with different things on it. It was wood, and I had my toys on it, and it was, I think it was pretty high up. But I remember there were like these cubes in there, and I saw something that I would describe as like a luminous smoke, and it was a hand. Um, and it was forming into a hand, and it was like a glowing kind of smoke. That's how I can describe it. It was dark in my room. I was sleeping, and the second I saw it, I was so unbelievably terrified that I I screamed for my mom. And I remember before in the time that I was screaming for my mom and she got there, um, I looked over and it was like I closed my eyes or something, and I looked over away from it, and then when I looked back, I saw it again. Like I figured, maybe I was something in my eye, I was seeing something, and it was there, like it was clearly there. And I was so like just so terrified that I felt that it was real. Um and and that was just too much for me. And then I looked away again, and then my mom came in, and then I looked again, and it wasn't there. Um and I've had other strange encounters, very sparse, and but not anything like that. Um and to this day, um I'm still afraid of the dark, to this day. I'm definitely afraid of the dark, and being in the dark by myself, of fear of seeing this thing again. Um, so yeah, I I didn't hear anything or anyone else that actually experienced anything like that, until I was watching a show um, recently. By I don't know if you've ever heard of News Nation with Ross Cohort. And he was interviewing this Brazilian UFO researcher. His name is Ron Burnett. I believe that's how you say it, Burnett. Ronnie Burnett. And he actually did some investigation that went into the um, Amazon rainforest, and he talks about a lot of different things. And in fact, this is a list of them right here. according to this, this is I believe, a post that I found on Twitter, formerly X, that he posted. There was one, two, there's five types, and the type one that he witnessed, and this is in the Amazon forest in Brazil. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. This is the list, so I'll go through it really quick. There was poltergeist activity, um, and what that is sounds of heavy furniture against ground, sounds of people walking on the forest. That's here or there. Lamps blinking, battery drainage, radio communication, smartphone freezing, camera, shut down. I mean, I know that sounds whatever, but it gets more interesting. Um, blinking orange spheres, two-part objects that blink huge orange light and flew over until enters the forest about around 2 meters in diameter. The type three was a steady orange sphere, continuous orange red light, and what was it? A red light and a ball of fire. Um, it said it flew over until enters the forest. That was around 1 meter in diameter. But this was the interesting one. This is the one that type four. um, type four was the luminous fog, and that was a white aurora, and that becomes dense and forms a huge 3D shape image. Um, supposedly, it paralyzed a boy that entered into a forest at some point. And that, to me, and the way he described it in the interview with Ross Carhart was, um, yeah, that was, I don't know, almost like identical to what I experienced. And he talks about the luminous smoke. It, yeah, I had a clip of the interview, and I was a little afraid about playing it because of I know you can play certain things for research purposes, but yeah, there are um, copyright infringement lawsuits and stuff that people put on people that talk about the phenomenon or have certain narratives about it, and I just didn't want in any way to um, get shut down. But however, the most yeah, it was really interesting how that luminous smoke um, was pretty much almost identical to what I was experiencing, because he described it as it formed into a hand, and that's what I experienced, like that same kind of, interesting hand formation. Now, I'm pretty sure when I was younger, in the backyard of our house, we used to dig up things, and I would find arrowheads or um, different. Yeah, I think I found a lot of and I heard that there was supposedly some kind of Indian thing maybe around there, but which was really creepy is when I was younger and I went away to a thing called Stokes. And Stokes was like a thing that, people would do to go and like I was in sixth grade, kind of be away from your parents for the first time and everything. And here they are telling a story about where I lived, and it was in Cypress Lane, in Hamilton, New Jersey, and in that area, um, there was supposedly a lot of weird stories and stuff. And when I was much younger, we saw, and I say we meaning a bunch of um, kids that I grew up with in the area. I'm not going to mention their names. Supposedly saw something. These lights that were huge. Um, there were these two balls that were moving. It almost seemed like headlights, but they were bigger than that, and then they were on like almost top of a tree, and they started like you know moving like that, and like um, and it must have been, and I remember thinking in my head like 10 feet tall. Um, but in unison, like they were headlights. So I don't know if somebody played a prank on us or something, but I remember one of the kids supposedly ran up there, and I don't think I ever got a straight answer from him. And that could have been, also a hoax as well. Um, so yeah, I mean that kind of it was another thing. It happened the same area on our street. Um, I don't know. I don't think I mentioned the exact street I grew up on, just because. But yeah, that was to me like with everything coming out right now and all the UFOs and everything, and the congressional hearings. There's more going on soon. Um, and something that I carried with me, and there was somebody that I worked with that messaged me today and talked about something in the '70s that experience, and almost like you don't want to talk about that. And there, it's just like cannabis. How this subject is very stigmatized, and yeah, it is. It was pretty much a good relief, and I'm sorry I'm a little chopped up here and stuff. That's why I'm probably not going to go on much longer. I just wanted to definitely uh, pull through and do the show, and I'll try to stay on as long as I can. Um, but if you go back here, it says and something I wrote. We'll take a look at it. Um, Ronnie also talked about how the objects, or at least Ross Kohlhoff, asked him, and Ronnie spoke about these beings and how they communicated with these boys telepathically. Um, I don't think I've ever experienced that with somebody, but I believe the reason why they were not communicating. Um, oh, okay, yeah. So this is a complete, you know, off the topic thing here. Um, yeah, but I wanted to read that there was also a few more types of these that he posts, and you can go on to where is he his name here. Yeah, so Ronnie Burnett. Yeah, Ronnie Burnett. the there was a fifth type, and this type was not witnessed in person, but recorded in multiple equipment. There, types two, three, and four were recorded, and a luminous entity with a humming sound that illuminates in the area that projects another oval-shaped UAP near the ground. And what did he say here? Silence nature sounds before it disappeared. Um, the other one, my goodness, I am really bad here. I'm sorry. There were one more type that he shows a clip, and I did have some of these I saved, but I don't think I'm gonna do it tonight. Then I'm gonna probably end this short, a little congested here. But a luminous entity. Um, Now where was it? It was a white aurora, and it became dense. And I think what he was explaining was a lot more larger than what I experienced. But it was the same type of like it was kind of forming into something. And it's yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and but the other one that related to it was these fireballs that he was talking about. And oh, shish kebabs. I think that's is it up here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know if I like got the fireballs. Yeah, okay. Is that it? No. Oh well, that's okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Um, but he it related to I think the orange spheres, and that was um there was another point about the fireball, but one of the type, I think it was type, yeah, it was type 3, which was the orange sphere but a fireball. And there's been sightings of plasma. And what happened in, I think it was 1997 in the summer. I'm not sure of the exact date, but it was around the time um, in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. So you could look that up. There was a crop circle, and that during that same time, and I don't know if it was the same day or a day apart, but it was in a very close proximity of time where I was driving down the highway um, with my friend, and we looked up in the sky, and what we saw was like these two almost fireballs, but they weren't like fireworks. And they, kind of twisted and turned in ways that an airplane would not move. And, it exhilarated like, this was back in 1997. And I think they ruled out the crop circle as being a hoax. So I don't know. You decide. But with that, hopefully, I will be a little more presentable. I'm sorry, I'm a little banged up here with not feeling so well. And we can continue tomorrow. There is a correlation that, and for those who probably didn't tune in, um, there is a correlation between the research that Vernet did and the Varginha incident that was also in Brazil. So I will hopefully be feeling a bit better tomorrow, and hopefully I have running water by then, and things are a lot better. Um, but like I said, the very strange things happen to me, and I don't know if somebody is trying to silence me, but my voice, and I got extremely sick. It was kind of right out of the blue, um, and I had this very strange message here, and my water just stopped working today, and my landlord said he doesn't understand that. Um, so pretty weird. These all these things happened back to back, like just in a row. So I don't know. Is it just coincidence, or like the things that I briefly talked about, these um, phenomenon, or that happened to me as a child, and there's a few things that I didn't talk about that I will soon, that happened to me later in life. But yeah, and then there's a correlation here. It looks like I have one person listening, so I'm guessing that's probably me. Um, or maybe there's a lonely soul out there that's listening, but that's cool. I mean, I just started here. I don't really have a following, and I'd like to. So if you could subscribe, just out of I don't know, sympathy, you could just start. You could just like it because I don't know. I think it's cool. Um, we'll see what other kind of stuff we can do, but it's cool. If you could do that. You could just have this channel and talk about stuff, and I think that's awesome that we have that sort of freedom. Um, but yeah, there's other things that I'm kind of contemplating, that to even get into, that were, I don't know if they're related to what has happened to me. Somebody hacked my printer, um, whatever. I don't know. Very, very far-fetched thing for that to happen, and things happen. Um, but it's kind of like this other incident too, where you know what, I think I'm going to save that for tomorrow, because it's hard for me to talk with my voice kind of going in and out, and I sound like I shoved sandpaper down there. So I'm gonna rest it, not push it, and we'll see about tomorrow. I could do a show every day, and what's kind of interesting is that I was gonna do a show that was about other things too, and maybe I'll tie that into it. But what I do is, when I do research. I just have like page and upon page upon page, and I'm looking for the at least now the connections of things and how all this stuff connects and how it relates. Like, we're if you study UFOs or UAPs, there is so much um, that is out there that it's like ADD, and it it's almost like crack for researchers because the stuff is it's almost it's magical, it's amazing, and that's why I think a lot of it may be made up, um, and some of that might be what we know as counterintelligence, right? Um, and that can be scary. I don't think people realize how easy we are manipulated and how we mimic our surroundings. Um, and 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 that scares me um, deeply. That you're not aware. We're not always conscious of how we act. In other words, that we're right. Um, so it's very easy to manipulate your thoughts and to make you do things without realizing it. And I don't know. When you study the subject, there's not a lot of people that are necessarily putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And the approach is that um, it's entertainment, or it's presented as entertainment, which is good because scientists can be boring, and um, people that are trained or practice a lot and to present themselves in a certain way, it's easier for you to obtain the information that way. And then it becomes a sort of a entertainment thing, but they themselves could easily be influenced, and it's just it could be all there's just a lot of it out there, and you don't even have to think of it in a chronological way, but just more of there is a lot of strange things that are not just happening here, but they're happening around the world. And it's very scary. Um, but you know, there is a lot for me to go over. And the and my point is that the way I do this type of research and how I compile everything, it's just a page upon page upon page upon page, and then it's connection, and then we cut and we paste the um the ideas that correlate to each other, and that correlation is really what's gonna um I at least hope maybe put some kind of more clarity to all this. It it's like one step forward, then it's two steps back. It's kind of like where we're going. Are we really going that far? And it's almost like we're going around in circles. You follow someone, or you get entertained by their charisma, their charm, and I'm speaking in terms of it's such a corny word, but ufology. Um, in terms of ufology, um, there are a lot of people that maybe I didn't approach them in a complete unbiased way, and then I went back and questioned myself and said that, why am I questioning this person? Um, it was there someone else that made this person now influenced and to look bad, and there is this weird like spin on things that's happening with people, and they say that a lot of people in the uh, ufology, or like the UAP, I would say community, if that's a way to put it. There's a lot of false hopes there, and then there's the people that, the critics, which that's a good thing, because you should have polls in each way, and I think that transparency is really important. That you should have people that are willing to um, question the beliefs, and because isn't it really what everybody wants in that, is that we're looking for the truth, right? um, and it doesn't matter how hard you believe in something, but that's the problem, because that's the illusion, is that if you believe in something too much, then you know um yeah, I mean, that's not good. It becomes this false fabrication of things. So um see here, and I get lost in it, and sometimes I've experienced certain things, and again, I don't know if it's true, or if it's this going back to the concept of that Night Shalom servant show. Is it this mystical religious thing happening, or is it a can science explain it? So I don't know. There's a lot to go, and I was gonna look at this as a daily show of other things, but like I said, just with my notes here, um, I so much to talk about. Like, I could just go on and on and on. That I think it might be good to do a daily show on just this. And, if people want to listen, cool. If they don't, I'm doing this because I love doing this because I love broadcasting and um there I stopped doing my shows at Princeton, and um this is cool. Like I'd like to get into doing some music, live performances and stuff, but I looked at the like with DJing and it'd have to be all my own stuff. So that's cool and definitely in the works, but there's a lot that I'd like to talk about because what what I think this ultimately is me going back to being a kid and seeing, was that real? Um, the things that I saw in the sky with my friend, those balls, those orange or whatever they were in the sky were, what were they? Um, and all these new testimonies that I'm hearing, people like David Grush, uh, the congressional hearings that are coming up, people that are swearing under oath. Um, there is a lot of people and professional trained people that are looking for the truth. And it, frankly, it really it scares me. Um, and I think it should scare a lot of people. Um, and I'm not saying that, you should stop living your life, but it's kind of like the movie Don't Look Up. Um, you know, have you ever seen that? Or if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's a good movie, but I would say, and I don't want to give it away. It's kind of disturbing, um, because it's real. There's a real element to all that, and it makes you think. It really does. Um, so we just, I think we're oblivious, and I think more people should, do what you want to do, but um, there is there's something I think more than us, and that goes in even to our DNA and um, how perfectly just genetically engineered we are. When you look at the DNA molecule, I mean, it's fascinating, and I believe, and I think everybody has their own beliefs that we were definitely made um, by something greater than us. And with religion, I've been struggling with probably my whole life. Um, which another thing I don't want to get into. It's a little bit of a deep, dark subject. But when I was, 13, my grandma passed away, and that was a traumatic time in my life. Um, so I don't know. Really horrible moment, and I don't know where I was going with that. I think I'm kind of rambling on about some weird stuff. But there was some kind of correlation there. But that was a definitely a traumatic time in my life. But I think really we're all kind of looking um, for the truth there, and uh, it's nice to talk about this, um, and it's nice to know that there are other people, too that um, feel the same way. But I think I'm gonna be doing these chats every day. It's really fun, um, and I'll probably get a lot better at it. Practice makes perfect. Uh, um, but I kind of jumped the hurdles and you know put this together. Um, yeah, because there's a lot to talk about, and it's kind of hard to get into it right now. But the correlation I will say right now that happened with the Brazilian, um, the Varginha incident. Now, this is a Wikipedia. This is from Wikipedia. So this is the Varginha UFO incident. And it involves a series of events in 1996 when residents of Varginha, Brazil, claimed seeing one or more strange creatures, at least one identified flying object. The reports of extensive media coverage. Other associated claims included the captured one or more extraterrestrial beings by the Brazilian authorities and animal fatalities at a zoo and a woman impregnated by an extraterrestrial. These are supposedly things that happened there. Um, and there was an investigation by the Brazilian army concluded that the city resident was mistaken for an alien creature and the movement of military personnel in the region was routine. Yeah. Now, the other thing is that there's a movie about this that you should definitely go see. It's called Moment of Contact. And James Fox is actually putting out a new movie. Goodness, what is that called? Oh God, the phenomenon. I think. Um, was that as old? I can't think of it. But James Fox, he's a ufologist and a filmmaker. And I was just listening to an interview with him that was an older interview that was about this movie. And then, which, oh goodness, this was on a show that it's not on anymore, but you could still hear the podcast. But he does the show Vet It now. Patrick from Vet It. It was all his old show. I think it was called the Lone Star or something like that. And um, the witnesses were frightened. Like I was frightened. That's also a correlation that you'll see with things that they're not only a regional correlation, the experiences that people are experiencing that when you think of UFO, we almost think of like ghosts or spirits or something like that as separate, but they can actually be. Let me shut my phone off here for a second. Just to confirm, you want to power off this device? Yeah, I do. It's never asked me before. That was weird. Um, uh, but it also took 10 years to like the interview. Um, the movie took a while because he couldn't get the people to interview. Um, they were that frightened by what happened, and that to me is like that's the thing is like why I think they don't reveal themselves to us, if you do believe, because it would be too much for you to take in. Um, Now, basically, in a nutshell, also, people saw that this man. I think he was supposed to meet up with some people. He's near Virginia, and he sees a craft in the sky, and it's going down. It looked like he was in trouble. There was a piece of it missing, and he notices that it crashes, and then he goes to go see it, and there is this nasty, like sulfur um, smell, and he there's also a Joe Rogan podcast where he talks about this sulfur smell. Look up James Fox, Joe Rogan, and there's a podcast where he talks about that nasty, pungent smell. It remind what he's describing. I don't know if this is the same thing, but when I was in Salt Lake City, um, the Salt Lake had this nasty, like disgusting smell to it. And it was like really bad. Um, I was wondering maybe if the aliens were perhaps living in there or something like that. Just an idea too. And just speaking of water, I mean that's another thing that's been thrown around. How our oceans are just not they're not all explored, and you're going down to certain depths, and the pressure is too great, right? And when they did go down there, they're discovering things that you know so that we've never seen before. um yeah, it's really kind of a interesting thing. And but anyway, it's kind of like the movie Luca. They're if they were to reveal themselves to us, we might think they're monsters and hurt them. I mean, there's an incident where it looks like my battery is going to die, so I'm going to have to end soon. But there is a really quick. There's an incident in New Jersey by one of the Air Force base. I think it was McGuire Air Force Base, where a general, I think it was in the 70s or not, supposedly shot one, killed him. Um, and I think that's been commands before in the past that we've shot them. And I guess they're looking at from a military point of view, and they're following protocols that they have to. That they're trained as almost instincts. Um, you know, yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, it is a bad thing, and it's why we want to protect ourselves. But if they are that technologically advanced, as the saying goes, they probably would have destroyed us. I don't know. You be the judge. There's weird things being thrown around about 2027. Dave Navarro, one of my guitar heroes growing up, said something about that. Um, he was with the people of Wetland Eyes, Jeremy Corbell, and George Knapp. They were hanging out at a concert, and he mentioned that, and he did a post about 2027. I don't know. That scares me because that's not the only thing I've heard about that. But then it's like there's so much stuff out there. There's stuff that a lot of stuff that's fabricated. So my computer is going to go now. I didn't bring my plug down here, and my voice is pretty bad. So should do a recap tomorrow of everything if the good Lords treat me well. I'll be back tomorrow and hopefully every day from now on. Have a good evening, my friends. Be well. Peace be with you. I don't know. I didn't come up with like a cool like ending thing. Like when I do some of my Facebook posts, I say daddy out or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with something. Maybe you could help me out in the comments or whatever. I'd still like to give away $20 gift card to two people for liking my YouTube. Um, you don't necessarily really have to like it. I really hope you love it. You should please, um, if you haven't already, subscribe. It's free. You get all this. I mean, all this every day for free. You get my knowledge for free every day. And you just have to subscribe and you can help other out. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.